right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Authors Unite show. Today we have David Wood. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Good to see you, Tyler.
Of course. Great to see you as well. So if you want to start us off, just tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Sure. I help business owners to double their revenue and their time off. But if money is all you want, you should go to somebody else, because there are lots of people who focus just on cash. I look at the whole person. So if your relationships are giving you trouble, that's going to slow down your revenue and impact your life. So double revenue, double your time off, and then we look at who you are as a human being and how you show up as a leader, partner, parent, and human. There's the short version.
Okay. No, perfect. So I like to start from the beginning, not the very, very beginning, not from like inception, but because I'm curious, like how
I had a difficult birth.
Yeah. I'm just always curious as to how people get to where they are, right? So I guess when you were younger, did you think you'd be doing anything like this?
No way. Of course, I wanted to be a fireman and I wanted to be an astronaut. But in school, I started getting really good at school at about 14 years old. I don't know what happened, but I just things became easy, and I was really good at math. So what do you do when you're good at math? We figured you become an accountant. But then my mother did some research. She was a teacher and she'd researched, and she found this thing called being an actuary. We're like, what the hell is that? It turns out it usually earns more than accountancy. It's a lot harder to qualify. And then, and there's more prestige if anyone actually knows what it is. So we figured that's what I'm going to do. And I did it. I actually qualified as an actuary, blood, sweat, and tears. And then I got a job in New York on Park Avenue, consulting to Ford, Sony Music, Exxon. And I figured I had it made, but I wasn't that happy. And my marriage wasn't that well. So I'm making the money, I'm doing well business-wise, and I'm learning all about business, but my marriage wasn't doing well. And if the marriage isn't doing well, I'm not doing well. So someone recommended a personal growth course, and that's when I discovered coaching. So I was 27 years old. I'm in this course, and I accidentally changed somebody's life overnight by coaching them. And I'm like, this is amazing stuff. And I realized, Tyler, that while I knew a lot about money and business and systems, at that point in my life, I knew nothing about intimacy and vulnerability and communication and true influence and leadership. So I guess the first 25 years of my life were about business and money and systems. The last 25 years of my life have been about learning those things that were missing so that I can address my whole human and help my clients address their whole human.
Mm-hmm. And I had read in your bio that you were counseled by Jack Canfield. So is that who you're talking about that you learned from first, or was that later on?
No, Jack came later. I'd met,
okay, gotcha.
I'd met Jack at a conference, and I was just blown away by seeing him speak. I'm like, I want to speak like that. And so I went up to him and started a little connection, and we started actually cross promoting. And since this is about Authors Unite, I was thinking about what would be really useful for authors. And look, whether you're selling a book, or you're selling a course, or you're selling a widget, you've got to be able to partner with people and cross promote. And when I told Jack, look, I'd be happy to send an email for you, he said, oh, you've got, your list is half the size of ours. We should definitely do something. And so that started the business relationship. It took a few more years of stalking and some luck to get to the point where he was said yes to writing the foreword to my book.
Oh, very nice. That is awesome. So I want to actually go back real quick, because I wanted to ask that person that you said their life was changed overnight. Can you go into a little bit more detail without giving away their identity?
Yeah, I won't. Yeah,
yeah.
Some of my clients have given me permission to use their names.
Oh,
so
great.
I can tell client stories, but this one, a woman, a participant in the course, was giving me a ride home, and we're sitting in the car, and I'm saying goodnight. I'm about to leave, and then we got talking, and it turns out she's been manipulating her husband for 10 years and using the fact that he had an affair 10 years ago to control him. And she was feeling really bad about it and really guilty that she just discovered this. And then as we got talking, it turned out someone else had an affair 10 years earlier, but she hadn't told him that piece of the puzzle. So
Whoa.
they
Okay.
they both had an affair. So I'm watching her and holding space for her to consider telling him the truth after 10 years and apologizing and taking whatever the consequences are going to be, and creating the possibility of true intimacy and true love, and watching her with tears streaming down her face. It was such an incredible experience. I got goosebumps right now. And she went away and she went and told him, and she came back to the course and reported to everybody that she and her husband felt like they were floating on air 6 feet above the ground, fully in love the entire weekend. And all from her risking her marriage to tell the truth. So I was hooked. I'm like, how do I get more of this? And then Landmark Education was where I did my course, and they said, look, if you come back and you do the third course, we will train you as a coach so that you can help other people go through the program. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. And I didn't even know you could do this as a living yet. I just knew I wanted to know how to coach. And then someone had a business card. It said coach on it. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a thing? Like, people are getting paid for this? And this is back in 97. And then by the end of 98, I decided, all right, I'm going to go full on into this. I went and found myself a course. I went and found myself a coach. And I'm like, show me how to do this as an actual business. And I guess that was 23 years ago. And here we are.
Got it. And it seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that your current business, it's kind of a blend of that, right? So you started out maybe on like the life coaching, and then now it's kind of like you brought it all together. So it's helping your business, your time. And then once that's taken care of, then it goes into like the full life. Is that kind of the way it works, or?
Yeah, that's right. When I started, like before I found coaching, I was consulting to big companies and helping them, with the bottom line, right? And risk management, because that's what actuaries do. Actuaries are all about risk management. And then when I got into coaching, I started with the personal because I was so excited about it. And then I quickly found that people paid more for business coaching generally. Right. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, well, that's fine. I know a lot about business. Let's do that. So we did the business coaching, and then it's like I got lost down a rabbit hole. I started coaching coaches for a long time because everyone's like, how are you doing this? How are you traveling the world, working from wherever you want, picking your own hours, and even earning money while you sleep? How do you do this? And this was just after the 4-hour work week came out. And I was like, all right, I'm going to write my own version of that and show people one method that I've used to share what you love using the internet and have a successful business. And then 3 years ago, I decided to rebrand because I was like, David, you've always wanted to help people with the personal, and here you've just been doing only business. Come on, let's shape up. So now I've rebranded with Focus.ceo, and we start on money because I've rarely met a business owner that doesn't want to make more money. So we'll start there and it pays the bills. Then let's work on your time off. And then along the way, life's going to happen. And like, I've got one client, she's a wonderful, very smart businesswoman, and she just got diagnosed with a serious illness. So that's what her and her husband are dealing with. So I had a session with both of them, and we ended the session with, all right, what game are you going to play now? Given you don't know how long you've got to live, how are you going to show up, and what game are you going to play?
Wow. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah. And it does make sense to me, that equation, right? So it's like figuring out the money first, and then time, because I'm sure that happens. I don't know if it's every business owner, but I would assume it's most business owners, is when you just focus on the money, then what you end up realizing is that you have no time to do anything else. And then you got to kind of restructure the business in a way that you have more time, and then you can work on every other part of your life in a sense. So that makes
Yeah.
complete sense.
And it, it varies. There are some people, do a lot of yoga, meditation, and follow the spiritual path. And I have had clients come to me and say, look, I heard you speak about tough conversations and courage, and I think I could really use that in my life. Yeah, sure, in my business, but I think I could use it everywhere. So there are some of those clients, but a lot of, and I know what it's like to be a business owner. You firstly put the oxygen mask on yourself,
Yep.
and let's double revenue. So I've got one client, and I do have permission to share her story. Amy Youngblood has a great interior design business, Amy Youngblood Interiors. And she came to me and she's like, look, we're not doing as well financially as we used to. Can you help? I said, let me ask some questions. So I asked some questions, went through it, and I said, yeah, it looks like I can help. Let's give it a whirl. So over that first year, we doubled revenue. But along the way, so many fascinating things came up. Like she's got teenage kids. How do I talk to my kids about COVID? They think they should be able to go and party and hang out with everybody. They're not worried about it. How do I set boundaries here? How do I deal with difficult customers? How do I handle pricing when people seem to want to go price shopping? So I just slipped back into business stuff. And then, how do I deal with a former relationship that's really quite tense, and I'm really stressed, and now someone's suing. So there's so many life issues that come up, and they provide, of course, an opportunity to grow. It doesn't seem like that. It's just like, damn it, I just want this over. So she's one of my favorite clients, because we get to do the business stuff. Yeah, that's really fun. We do branding. Okay, how about your messaging? How about your conversions? Let's look at that. But then along the way, how are you showing up? And so one of the things that I'm really pleased to see is her speaking up more, speaking her truth more, and setting boundaries more, and doing it with more kindness. Because when we start, we might be a bit bumpy about it. We might use a sledgehammer when a much smaller tool is needed. And I tell you what, I'm growing, right? I don't want anyone to get the sense that I think I'm some kind of guru. I've got everything sorted out. Oh my God, no. I'm constantly learning, but it's fun that as I grow, I get to witness my clients' growth as well.
Yeah, no, I can see how doing that, it would be very fulfilling, especially even just going back to your first story, like, having that long conversation with her, and then her whole life kind of changing very quickly after. And then, obviously it was her that did the actual like doing of it, but your conversation is the compass for it. So I can just imagine it's very fulfilling. So one thing that was really intriguing, which I'm sure on interviews you get this a lot, but it is in your bio, is you somehow managed to rank number one on Google with the term life coaching, which seems like it would be near impossible, because it's probably a pretty highly searched term. So I guess actually, I mean, our listeners probably would be interested in that. So like, if you want to get a little bit into the details, obviously I know there's a lot to SEO, but I guess how were you able to do that in a simple way of explaining?
Yeah, well, I'll try and give you the meta version, because
Yeah.
whatever I was doing back then wouldn't apply now, right? Because it keeps shifting. But basically I Googled. Google wasn't around then, but I was like, Alta Vista was a big search engine back then. And I remember when Google did come around and I was number one on Google, I remember I'd keep looking at how many results were returned, because being number one out of 500 results doesn't mean that much, but being one out of 23 million results, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I'm a rock star. And now initially I just looked up on the search engines, how do you do it? And back then it was fairly simple. You needed your anchor text needed to be about life coaching. You needed to have related words. You needed to have a lot of good content. And then And then eventually it came around to links. They're like, all right, we need you to have links. So I went and did link campaigns, and I asked people to link, and I did link swaps and all that stuff. And a lot of that stuff you could do until it didn't work, right? There were link farms that would link back to you. And then,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then a friend of mine, we did gray hat stuff. Like he'd put like 1,000 links on some pages and see if that did anything. And it would work for a little bit until Google did an update. But basically I researched how to do it, and then I put a lot of work into it. The reason I'm no longer ranked number one is because you got to keep it going. You've really got to keep on providing lots of value. You got to keep on, which I do now, but I kept shifting my brand and shifting the website. That old site was life-coaching-resource.com. That was the one that, I mean, now it's probably like ranked 5,000 because I don't maintain it. But that's how I got to ranked number 1, 3, 7, and 9, even on some of the search engines. Some people were complaining. They're like, this is ridiculous. But I was early into it as well. Now, these days, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't try and rank for life coaching unless you're a multi-million-dollar corporation. You use long tail now. So you'd look for like life coaching, Boulder, Colorado, maybe. Right now, you're just competing with all the life coaches in Boulder, which is still a few hundred, but you could probably do that. But life coaching is too general as well. So you might go for relationship coaching Boulder. I'd still want to go deeper into that with the long tail. And a friend of mine and I joke that SEO is dead. I don't know that it is, but it's just the competition keeps on getting so much more intense.
Yeah, no, that's actually refreshing to hear though, because I think a lot of people have the misconception that you basically, whatever the strategy is, and Google's always changing their algorithm and stuff, but is once you're there, then you're there. And it's not the way it works, right? Because once you are on page one, you actually have to maintain page one, because then others are also. So it's really not something that's like you spend 6 months to a year, you get there, and then you're like, okay, I'm there.
No. If I had everything over again, I would try and maintain that position. I would go back in time, and I would have someone just, constantly adding material to the blog, constantly updating pages, tweaking, making spell corrections, and just making sure it's like it's a live site. And then constantly working on link exchanges, getting on government sites. If you can get on get a link from a university site, go and build a relationship with the webmaster, go and build a relationship with the university, get a university or government site to link to you. I think that goes a long way. Also, some of the big magazines, if you can, say you get on Forbes and you can get them to link to you, it's work. You've got to do it, or you got to pay someone to do it. My recommendation is pick your traffic source and then go deep with that. So if it's going to be SEO, then for a year, you're going to do SEO. If it's going to be Facebook ads, get really good at that. Maybe get a company that's really good at that and go deep in Facebook ads and nail it. Particularly in this day and age, you can't afford to be straddling 6 or 7 different traffic sources and expect to do them well.
100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I want to ask you about kind of like, because you work with so many business owners, like what are some commonalities that you see? So when somebody comes to you, and let's just start with the first one with money, and their revenue is down, what do you see typically as being like the reason for that? Or have you noticed commonalities?
Yeah, well, I've identified 3 big buckets when I'm assessing a company to see why they're not making more money, or what the potential is. So the first big bucket is productivity. And we look at, what are your goals? Are you really clear on your goals? And are they layered? Like, do you know what your goals are in 12 months, in 3 months, and every 7 days, do you have a new cycle of goals? Also, every day, do you know what you're going to wake up doing? So we look at that. We look at productivity, meaning when you sit down to actually work, can you crank it out? Can you do a 2-hour sprint and do what's going to move the needle in your business? It sounds very simple, But with all the distractions today, so many of us are naturally scattered.
Yep.
So we look at that and then we look at mindset. And then that's the productivity basket, because I want you, like within the first few weeks, I want you producing twice as much as you are now. And it's actually possible to produce twice as much of what matters in half the time, which is basically quadrupling your productivity. So we start with that. Then the second bucket is your money. Do you have a flood of leads or do you have a trickle of leads? Let's look at that. What's your traffic source? How's your messaging? Do you have caveman messaging such that a caveman could grunt it?
Yeah.
Double revenue 1 year. There's a message a caveman can grunt. Then we look at your conversions, because there's no use having a flood of leads if people are coming in your website and just disappearing. And then we look at, are you leveraging your existing customers? Are you loving them up and getting referrals and testimonials and upsells and like that? Or are you constantly searching for the next sale?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second bucket. Then the last bucket, you've got to leverage, because in most businesses, the business owner is the bottleneck. Mm-hmm. So we look at clarifying your genius. So if I was doing a session with you, Tyler, on this, we'd look at, what do you love to do that you are great at? And then create a plan to offload all the rest. Then you've got to hire that staff or those contractors. And then the last piece in the leverage bucket is motivate them and accountability, which is really fascinating, because I finally, like, once I had the course, I realized that this last piece is basically doing for your team what we did for you in the first 3 weeks. All that stuff about goal setting and accountability and productivity and motivating yourself. Now we roll that out for the entire team. So that's basically the 8-week samurai course I have. And I have a training, and I'm happy to give it away to listeners if you like. It's a very important training, because it doesn't make sense for anyone to do all 9 of those steps. Tyler, you might be strong in 1, 3, 5, and 7. So what you first need to do is assess where you're strong and where you're weak. Now we know what you're going to work on in the first 3 months. Mm-hmm. So that assessment training is really important. I don't want anyone to just, paint by numbers. I'm just going to go through and do all 9 weeks of this program. No, you work out which 3 areas out of this whole course are going to really be the leverage for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the thing, it's kind of like the entrepreneur's dilemma, right? Is that you build this business, and when you start out, typically you are wearing all the hats, but then you have to like let go. And that was one of the biggest things for me as my business started to grow, was like just letting go of like kind of micromanaging everything so it's perfect. Because at some point you literally are, just from a time perspective, are unable to do that. And to hear you speak, with 4-Hour Work Week, what's interesting to me about it is like that was the book that like changed everything for me. And one of the things, productivity, which I love to dive deeper with you on, is batching, that I learned from that book, right? So like I have some days that I only do sales calls, some days that I only do podcasts, and then I have some days that I will not allow like anything on my schedule. And that's my like creative and like kind of get in the zone focus type of work. So I'm curious, have you found like any productivity tips that you have?
Oh yeah, for sure. And batching is a great one. I use it myself. I don't want to review the books every month. I'm not recommending this for everyone, but because I'm so into batching, I'd rather review the books once a year. If I'm going to load all that up in my head, let's review them. Yeah, sure. There might be a few expenses that I could have jumped on and stopped earlier on, but I don't care that much. I'd rather just make more money. So batching is a good one. And related to batching is this concept of sprint. So, and I also, another giveaway, I've got a little gift basket.
Oh yeah. What's the link for that first giveaway?
Oh yeah. The link, it's always the same link. I created a gift basket of goodies. It's myfocusgift.com.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, because I want to give you the gift of focus. So I created the most memorable URL I could, myfocusgift.com. It'll give you that free training. I've also got a checklist. And some of the first few things on the checklist is, one, you've got to have happy goals. You've got to know what would have you dance your ass off if you achieved it at the end of 12 months. And then you want to layer those goals. And then let's suppose you wake up knowing what you're going to do because you've gone through the checklist and you know that it's smart to wake up knowing what's important. So you wake up with that. You've got to have some sprints, and that could be related to batching. So Wednesdays, I have no calls scheduled.
That's how my Wednesdays are.
Woo!
Nice.
Right.
That's sick.
And it breaks up the week, right?
Exactly my thought. Yep.
Calls Monday, calls Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday's totally free that I can really dive in and get some solid work done. So that's batching big time. That's like a major sprint. But you can also have, say, 9 to 11 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday could be your sprint time, where you turn off all distractions, no pinging via email, no Facebook notification, no ding on your phone because you got a text message. Mine's on do not disturb right now. Put a sign on your door and let the family know, hey, this is my focus time. Short of a fire, please support me by leaving me alone, letting me work, and I'll come out and I'll hug everybody when the timer goes off, right? And then you choose what I will do for this sprint, say 2 hours. If I'm going to do a 2-hour sprint, I'll chunk it down even further, because here's a big mistake. All right, I got 2 hours. I'm going to work on my website. Bang, you just failed. Work on your website is not a constrained resource. It's not a container. It could go for 3 weeks nonstop. What would be even better is, all right, the first half hour, I will draft my bio, even a bad draft. The second half hour, I will send it out to people for feedback. The third half hour, I will choose pictures and upload 3 to the website. The fourth half hour, you get the picture?
Exactly.
So now it's game on, and I set the timer, 25 minutes. Boom. Now I'm focused. I've only got 25 minutes to achieve this goal. Now, what you might find, listeners, is my clients start with the best intentions, and then the next week they come back, they're like, yeah, it didn't really work. Like, what happened? Well, I sat down to do the sprints, but then there were knocks at the door, and then I had a phone call that I had to take, or there was an email. And I'm like, really? How did you know there was an email? Oh, I went and checked it. Okay. All right. Now we know one way that you fall off the horse is you check email. So you need some discipline. Don't do that. And then they might be like, all right, next week, I didn't check email, but then I remembered some Amazon orders I'd forgotten to do. And so I went and did that, and I didn't actually do what I said I'd do. So it does take some discipline and some practice. But if you go through each item on this checklist, and you can get this checklist as well at myfocusgift.com, what I want is not only for you to make more money and for you to have more time off, but I want you to feel great at the end of each day. And it feels good to wake up saying, all right, today I'm going to work on that alliance email. Not work on. You see, I just made that mistake. Today, I'm going to tweak the alliance email and send it off to my partner so they can send it out as an email blast. All right, that's the biggest thing I can do. And secondly, and I'm looking up at my board here, I'm going to choose a bookkeeper and get them started on the reconciliations. All right, boom, 2 really big things for my business. So you wake up knowing that, and then to actually, at the end of the day, cross it off, you feel like a rock star. I want you to have that feeling at the end of every single business day.
Now, have you, and I'm curious for you and for others, because I feel like this is common, is once you created this like freedom in your life and you had like a lot of time, what did you kind of go through like a little bit of, I don't want to call it a crisis. It might not be that extreme, but for some it is. Like, I feel like that's kind of a crisis a lot of successful people go through, is once they create this freedom, then they're like, oh, okay, well, what do I do? Because I've been so used to working and getting lost in work. And now it's like I have all this free time, like, but we'll just say the 4-hour work week. Like literally, if you are able to achieve 4 hours of working a week and that's it, you have a lot of free time. You can get into a lot of trouble with that time. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
And I
did that?
do.
Yeah, okay, great. Let's hear about
You
this.
know, yeah, I do. It brings up a new challenge. And I want everybody to get a chance to face that challenge.
Yeah.
So I have so much time available because of the way I've leveraged my business. So I was doing one-on-one coaching for a long time, and I still do for some clients. But I found group coaching very powerful, and it allows me to leverage my time. Plus, in some ways, it's better because you're not just getting David Wood's strategies and ideas; you're getting feedback and ideas from a whole group. But it does create a lot of time that I don't have to spend working. And I don't want to be coaching 40 hours a week. If I was coaching 40 hours a week, I don't think I'd be of any use to any of my clients. You really want a coach who loves what they do and they come to a session going, all right, let's get into it. You don't want a coach going, oh my God, another session, please kill me now. So I've got a lot of time, and sometimes it really is a challenge for me to work out what I'm going to do. So I've explored different things. I started playing tennis for a while. That was a lot of fun. I've done some volunteering, being of service, going into Colorado prisons and helping train inmates in the art of being human and tough conversations. On the weekend, I got to go and be with a friend who's suicidal right now. I've got a puppy. Sometimes she gets my attention. And yesterday was Sunday, and I woke up and I'm like, what are you going to do with yourself, David? And I'm a nerd. I'm an absolute nerd. And I've always wished I was a programmer in another life. And so I thought, you know what? Find yourself a Python course and just get started and just play with that. So I went and did that. And I love all sorts of games. So whether it's tennis or squash or ultimate frisbee or chess or video games, if I can find a good one, I spend a lot of time on that. The thing is, I've got to constantly come back to find some balance, because you cannot do any of those things for 10 hours a day and not pay a price of some kind. So I try and mix up the gaming and the friend time, a little bit of service. Before the pandemic, I was much better at exercise than I am now. But I want everybody to get to that problem where they're like, you know what? I now have more time. How do I want to use it? Well, is there a legacy I want to leave? Is it more time with my kids? In fact, I'm going to challenge listeners right now to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and you can pause the recording and write at the top, if I had 10 to 20 more hours in the week, how would I spend that so that I feel like I'm truly living? What would really, really be worthwhile so that on my deathbed, I can say, I gave it all. Now, for me, video games is not it, right? But supporting a friend who's suicidal, or yesterday, I learned something. I'm on a dating app and someone sent me an audio and I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is, it woke me up. I'm like, I won't go into the details, but I'm like, oh, wow, I could really learn something here. And so, insights like that are gold to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely, and I think that's really powerful, especially for people listening that have not run into that problem yet. Because I don't know many people that have thought about it really before running into it, right? Because again, you're just, at least for myself and others that I know, you're so singularly focused on like building the business that until that time freedom happens, you don't even think about it, right? Because you're just so zoned into the business. And then like somehow you just like keep tweaking and pivoting and growing. And then you kind of just like, this is how it happened for me at least. And you just kind of get to the other side and you're like, holy crap, what do I want to do? Like, this is another, and it can kind of lead into some interesting rabbit holes, I guess, where you really do learn about yourself. And it's like, why did I start this in the beginning? Like, what was it really driving me? And then for me, I guess similar to you with the nerd thing, for me, the podcast is really that. Like, this is my favorite way to learn that I found. Like, I love audiobooks. They're great, but they're not interactive. So like interviewing people is really just a way for me to learn. And
Good for you.
it's interactive.
Wow, you've got yourself an interactive audiobook right
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
That's nice. Yeah. And I realized too, like there's the dark side of the force that you'd be like, all right, I got all this time. I'm just going to watch TV and video game. Right. There is that. I personally need to be constantly vigilant. So I created a project. I'm writing a book called Name That Mouse to help people because the elephant is not the only animal in the room. So that's a project that's like a labor of love. And then coaching awesome. is important for me to actually have clients and keep being of service, or I can disappear down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I got to stay. And the other thing was travel for me, but yeah, obviously with COVID, it's a little bit difficult or it's more difficult than it was, I suppose, but still possible.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my last questions for you here is like,
wait. I just remembered. I feel like I just shortchanged everybody because I said, I won't go into the insight that I just got from this woman off the dating app, but I'm like, I don't want to rip people off. So can I share that insight?
No, please do. I thought she said something inappropriate in the message. Actually.
No,
that's what I thought it was.
No, it was amazing. Okay. It was basically, she sent me an audio from David Deida, DEIDA, and I'm familiar with David Deida. Me too, yeah. I was listening to this audio, and I've been judging a lot of my life because I have this vision of the perfect life, and if I'm not that, then I judge myself. And like video games and drinking alcohol and whatever. I was judging all that. And David Deida said this most amazing thing. He said, I'm going to paraphrase. He's like, who cares? He said, I care how open your heart is. I care if you're giving your gifts. And this woman was complaining that her man would get drunk. He's like, does he love? Is his heart open? Is he present? Is he showing up fully in life? Maybe he needs the alcohol to get by. He said, now, if the alcohol's stopping him from showing up and loving and opening his heart, you need to intervene. And what I got from that audio was, I'm going to judge my life on different criteria going forward. I'm going to judge my life by, is my heart open? So maybe I am nerding out on programming, but am I present? Am I relaxed? Am I breathing into my belly? If I am playing a video game and stomping someone, in the Netherlands, how am I doing it? Am I just trying to dominate? How's my energy while I'm doing it? And who am I serving in the day? That's how I'm going to judge. He said, look, you use glasses if you can't see well, right? That's a crutch to help you see better. He said, maybe your man's getting drunk. Maybe, everyone's different. Maybe that's what he needs. And I was just blown away and realized that I'd collapsed, my escapes and some of my habits with how I'm showing up in the world. And now I'm going to judge myself, and who knows, maybe you talk to me in a month and I'll stop judging myself in this way. But the yardstick now is my heart open? Am I connected? Am I feeling? Am I present in my body?
100%. And to go into deeper into that, I actually just saw this guy put a clip out like a week ago, and he said, life's not what you do, but how you do it, which I think is a great quote. I think obviously it also matters what you do to some extent, but like, I totally see how that can be profound for people. And something else that you said too, of like visiting the prison. I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of people are like afraid to ask successful people like how they got there or for like mentorship. And I think what they don't realize is that it actually feels good to like give back, right? Like a lot of when I was younger, 20 years old, I would reach out to conference coordinators and basically ask them if I could come to the event for free in exchange for helping them with the event. And literally I got like yeses, like a lot of them, like over 100 of them. And the thing
Wow.
was like, yeah, it was very interesting. And I believe now that I'm kind of on like the other end of it, it's like, it feels good to actually like have those conversations. Even, a college kid who's like in debt, they can't, provide any like financial value to you, but that's not the only way value is determined. And, if that's the way you view life, that's kind of sad. Right. So, I don't know, just for anybody listening that is looking for mentorship, you'd be surprised, right? Because you're actually taking time. And I know that's a little bit different, but you're literally taking time out of your day to go to a prison. And, let's actually look at that real quick, right? Because you're helping them, but it feels good to you, right? So it's actually like you serving yourself as well, in a sense, right?
I think everything we do can be traced back to
Yeah.
something that's selfish, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting.
fine. Just be aware of it. So yeah, I did it because it was interesting, because I got to feel good. I had some incredibly connected, intimate experiences teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's also, it doesn't hurt my profile and my brand as well to
Totally.
have some kind of service. I think, true altruistic service is also really useful. So sometimes it's useful to just give some anonymous money or do some anonymous good, because then you can't get anything from it
For
at
sure.
all. But yeah, I think everything that we do, we trace back. You go and do something for help an old lady cross the street. That's a classic one. You feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. Yeah. You definitely feel good, but no, totally. It's interesting to kind of go down those rabbit holes and trace it back. But I want to,
What was it that had you
yeah.
want to talk about the prison? The
Oh,
prison stuff.
I just found it interesting because like for me, like that's a few years ago is when I kind of went through this myself. So I like podcasting was kind of my way of filling that time. Like I started the podcast like 2.5, 3 years ago. Um, and again, like I said, I did it from learning, but then what I also started to do was I have my Fridays are for like connection calls, right? So what those calls mostly are for now is for if people like are looking for mentorship, like I have a special link that I'll only let people like that, I guess, book. And then my Fridays are just kind of like chilling back and I just have conversations with people and it's just about helping them. Now, to
Oh,
be
nice.
realistic, I feel good as well, but I don't
Yeah.
think that takes away from the actual doing of it. So,
Agreed. And now I've remembered there was something I wanted to say about the mentor thing. I'm a big fan of the law of large numbers.
mhm.
So, you reached out to a whole bunch of conferences and said and asked, can I come for free and I'll help out? Now, I bet a bunch of them said no,
Yes, they did.
right?
Yeah.
But you keep asking. Now, I wanted Jack Canfield as a mentor, and I even floated the idea to him once, and he said something like, "We'll see what happens." Now, if I'd really kept pushing that, if I'd been committed, and let's suppose I asked every month for a year or 2 years, I feel very confident that at some point Jack would have said, okay, and I could keep looking. What can I provide you? What can I provide you in exchange? So if you want some amazing mentors, go and ask 50 of them, and the 10 that you really care about, keep asking, and also keep offering and keep looking for where you can help out. Someone modeled this beautifully in the last week or two with me, and I don't think she'd mind me mentioning her name. Meredith Bell is a podcast host, and she heard me on a podcast, and she reached out and said, I got so much value. I got more value in this podcast than any other 100 podcasts. And I'm paraphrasing here. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said, it was so amazing. I've just gone and shared this on Facebook. I'd like to tag you. Could you add me as a friend? So I went and did that. And then she's like, I want to introduce you to everybody. And so she just led with the giving hand. And she's like, here are 8 podcast hosts I think you'd be great for. I'm going to make an introduction if that's okay. I'm like, yes, that would be okay. Thank you for doing that. Then when I got on a call with her, and initially I was a no, because she asked if I'd be on her podcast, and she had 18 reviews. I said, I have a minimum of 20 reviews. If you reach 20, I'm happy to do it. She reached out a day later, said, I've got 20 reviews now. And I'm like, all right. And then the guy that had interviewed me, he reached out to me and said, you should be on her show. She's the best connector I know. I'm like, all right. So she's working it, right, from different angles, but she led with the giving hand. And so when I got on a call with her, I felt compelled to want to help her. And I gave her something I haven't given anybody. I've got like a secret weapon when it comes to podcasting. I said, I'm going to give you backdoor access to this thing. That's my secret weapon, because I wanted to reciprocate.
Totally.
So you can, and if she'd wanted mentoring, I don't know, I might be open to it. She might be like, how about I offer you this? And in return, once a week, you give me some mentorship. Someone gives me a hot enough offer, I'm a yes. So law of large numbers, if you want something, keep on asking for it. Ask a lot of people. Byron Katie says, you can have anything you want in life if you're willing to ask 1,000 people.
Yes. Yo, I literally say that all the time, meaning like, it's about how many people can you ask? I couldn't say it better. I'm just going to stop there, because you're literally you're hitting my chords right now. That's good, dude.
Awesome.
So really, I want to leave it to you, just in case we didn't touch on anything. Like, is there anything else you want to share? Please, the floor is yours. And then also, website, I think we talked about that, but where can people stay connected with you? Best socials, anything related to that?
Yeah, sure. I'm a fan. I'm on a life journey of trying to play the game better, the game of life, the game of work. Like, how do I do it better? And I've always thought it makes sense, if I really care about it, I'll go and get some help. I'm smart and I'm independent. I can do almost anything myself, but I could do it faster with some guidance. So, if I want to play a video game better, I'll get a coach. If I want to date better, I go and get a coach. I want my business to do better, I go and get a coach. So that's my philosophy. If you, listeners, if something's resonated for you during this interview and you're thinking, I can do better too, and maybe this guy can help me, go to myfocusgift.com and you can take the free training for the Samurai program and see if you might be a fit for the program. I don't take everybody, because that wouldn't work very well for you or for me or for the people in the program. I only take people that I feel confident that I can really help, so that everybody wins. But I'd love you to go and check it out at myfocusgift.com. If you think you might be a fit, there's a way you can reach out to me. We'll get on the phone and make sure that that's true. And if you're not, I'll politely tell you and maybe point you in the right direction. And if you are a fit, well, game on. We'll have a lot of fun.
Beautiful. And thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad to meet you, and I'm really appreciating your thirst for knowledge.